The station hallways were empty and quiet. Ambassador Velthar walked slowly through the dim corridors of Unity Station. His forearms crossed behind his back. Sleep would not come to him tonight, just like the previous 3 nights. His species, the Quellans, often had trouble adjusting to the artificial day cycles of space stations. Back home on his planet, the days lasted 40 hours, not the standard 24 that humans preferred. He had been on Unity Station for almost a week now. The diplomatic summit was going well enough, but the nights were terrible. Velthar decided to walk until his body felt tired. Maybe some movement would help. He passed through the commercial district. All shops closed and dark. He moved past the observation decks, where a few late-night stargazers sat in silence. Finally, he found himself in the residential section of the station. That was when he heard it. The sound of running water and the clinking of dishes. Velthar followed the sound with curiosity. Who would be awake at this hour? He turned a corner and found himself at the entrance to a communal kitchen. These spaces were common on the station, places where residents could cook and gather. Through the open door, he saw a young human girl standing at a large sink. She was scrubbing dishes with steady, practiced movements. The girl looked to be in her teenage years, perhaps 15 or 16 by human standards. She wore simple clothes, and her dark hair was tied back in a ponytail. Next to her on the counter was a datapad, propped up against the wall. Velthar could see text and diagrams on the screen even from the doorway. He stood there for a moment, unsure if he should interrupt. The girl worked with complete focus, her hands moving quickly through the soapy water. She would scrub a dish, rinse it, place it in the drying rack, then reach for the next one. The movements were automatic, like she had done this thousands of times before. Velthar cleared his throat softly. The girl looked up, startled. Her eyes went wide when she saw his tall, blue-skinned form in the doorway. "Oh, I am so sorry, Ambassador," she said quickly, bowing her head. "I did not mean to disturb anyone. I can be quieter." "No, no," Velthar said, raising one hand in a peaceful gesture. "You are not disturbing me. I could not sleep. I was just walking." He paused. "May I ask what you are doing at this hour?" The girl relaxed a little. "Washing dishes, sir. The evening shift left quite a mess. My mother usually handles this in the morning, but I thought I would help her out." She gestured to the datapad. "And I am studying at the same time. 2 tasks at once." 1. Velthar stepped into the kitchen, his curiosity growing. "Your mother works here?" "Yes, sir. Her name is Hijin. She is part of the cleaning staff. She works very hard." The girl smiled with obvious pride. "I am Minji, by the way." "A pleasure to meet you, Minji," Velthar said. He moved closer and glanced at the datapad screen. His eyes widened. The text was dense and filled with complex mathematical equations. "This is quantum mechanics?" Minji nodded, turning back to her dishes. "Yes, sir. I have an exam next week. Quantum field theory is difficult, so I study whenever I can. While riding the transport, while eating, while doing this." She gestured at the sink with a soapy hand. Velthar felt a strange discomfort in his chest. On his world, young people were protected and treasured. They studied, yes, but they were never expected to work like this. Education was a full-time occupation for Quellan youth. They certainly did not wash dishes at 3 in the morning. "Does your mother ask you to do this?" he asked carefully. Minji laughed, a bright sound in the quiet kitchen. "Ask me? No, sir. She tells me not to. We argue about it almost every night. She wants me to sleep more, but I feel fine. I have energy. Why waste it?" "But you are so young," Velthar said. "Should you not be resting? Growing? Enjoying your youth?" The girl seemed to consider this as she scrubbed a particularly stubborn pot. "I suppose that is one way to look at it. But I see it differently. I am young. which means I have energy and time. If I use it well now, I can build a better future. For me and for my mother. She came to this station to give me opportunities. The least I can do is use them. Velthar watched her work for a long moment. The girl's hands never stopped moving. Her eyes flicked to the datapad every few seconds, reading a line or two before returning to her task. She was doing advanced university-level work while performing manual labor, at an hour when most beings would be deep in sleep, and she was doing it voluntarily. "What do you want to be?" Velthar asked. "In the future, I mean." Minji's face lit up. "An engineer. Specifically, I want to design better life support systems for deep space vessels. Current systems are efficient, but they can be better, safer, cheaper to maintain. If we improve them, more people can afford to travel between stars. More families can find new homes and opportunities." The ambassador felt something shift in his understanding. This was not exploitation. This was not a child being forced to work. This was something else, entirely. Something he had never encountered before in all his years of diplomacy across dozens of worlds. "You should sleep, young Minji," he said gently. "Even the most ambitious plans require a rested mind." Minji smiled at him. "I will, sir. Just 15 more minutes. I am almost done here, and I want to finish this chapter on Hilbert spaces." She paused. "Would you like some tea? I can make some while I work." Velthar found himself nodding. He sat down at one of the kitchen tables, watching this strange, driven young human work through the night. And he wondered what it meant that an entire species might be built like this. The thought was both impressive and slightly terrifying. Velthar could not stop thinking about the girl in the kitchen. The next morning, during the diplomatic breakfast, he found his mind wandering. The other ambassadors discussed trade agreements and cultural exchanges, but he kept seeing Minji's hands scrubbing dishes, her eyes reading quantum physics equations in the dim light of the kitchen. Something about the situation bothered him deeply. In Quellan society, such a thing would be scandalous. A child working while studying? A parent allowing such behavior? It suggested either poverty so desperate that child labor was necessary, or a social system that failed to protect its young. Either possibility disturbed him. After the morning session ended, Velthar made a decision. He would investigate. If humanity was exploiting its children, the Galactic Council needed to know. Perhaps Unity Station was hiding something that the diplomatic corps had not noticed. He would uncover the truth. He started by requesting a meeting with the station administrator. A human named Doyun agreed to see him within the hour. Velthar went to the administrative offices and was shown into a comfortable room with wide windows looking out at the stars. Doyun was a middle-aged human with gray streaks in his dark hair. He smiled warmly as he shook Velthar's hand. Velthar decided to be direct. "I wish to inquire about the working conditions of miners on this station. Specifically, the children of staff members who appear to be performing labor." Doyun's smile faded into a look of confusion. "Miners working? We have very strict regulations about that. Anyone under 18 requires special permits for employment, limited hours, and educational accommodations. Can you tell me what you have observed?" Velthar described his encounter with Minji. As he spoke, Doyun's expression changed from concern to understanding, and then to something that looked almost like amusement. "Ah, you met Minji," Doyun said, leaning back in his chair. "Yes, she does that. Her mother, Heijin, has filed complaints with us about it, actually. Not about the station, but about her daughter." "I do not understand," Velthar said. Doyun pulled up a file on his desk computer. "Minji is not employed by the station. She volunteers. Her mother wishes she would not. We have actually had to restrict her access to certain areas because she kept trying to help with maintenance work without authorization." He shook his head with a fond smile. "She is a brilliant student, top of her class in the station academy. She has scholarship offers from 3 universities already, and she is only 16. But why does she work if she does not have to? Velthar asked. That, Doyun said slowly, is a very human question to ask. Or rather, a very human thing to answer. She works because she wants to, because she can, because she sees something that needs doing, and decides to do it. Velthar left the meeting more confused than before. He decided he needed more data. Over the next 2 days, he began to observe and question. He did so discreetly, not wanting to alarm anyone. What he found surprised him. He watched Heijin at work. She was a small woman, perhaps in her 40s, with tired eyes but quick movements. She cleaned floors, emptied waste bins, maintained the residential areas. It was honest work, but clearly exhausting. And every time Velthar saw her, she was arguing with her daughter. You need to sleep, Heijin said one evening, her voice carrying down the hallway. Minji, please. I am fine, mother. I slept 6 hours. That is enough. It is not enough for a growing girl. You need rest. I will rest when I am dead, Minji said, and Velthar could hear the smile in her voice. Right now, I am alive, and there is so much to do. He observed other humans as well. There was Junho, a maintenance worker who fixed atmospheric processors during the day. Velthar learned that Junho was also studying medicine through a distance learning program. He attended virtual lectures during his lunch breaks and studied anatomy texts while riding the transport to and from work. Why not simply study full-time? Velthar asked him one day. Junho looked surprised by the question. Because I need to eat, Ambassador. And because I like my work. Fixing things is satisfying. But I also want to help people more directly. So I do both. In 5 years, I will have my medical degree. Until then, I keep the station running, and I study. There was Sora, a cargo handler who moved supplies from the docking bays to the storage facilities. She was also writing a dissertation on xenobiology. She recorded observations during her shifts, noting how different species' biological needs affected cargo requirements. Her thesis was apparently getting attention from several academic institutions. Do you ever stop working? Velthar asked her. Sora laughed. I stop when the work is done. But there is always more work. That is life, is it not? We keep moving forward. Then there was Tae Young, a janitor who spent his free time in the station's machine shops. He had designed and built several improvements to the waste recycling system. The station had implemented his designs and saved significant costs. He was not an engineer by training. He had simply seen a problem and decided to solve it. Velthar compiled his observations. He created detailed notes, and slowly, a picture began to form. These humans were not being exploited. They were not victims of poverty or poor social systems. They were something else entirely. They were driven. Every human he observed seemed to possess an internal engine that pushed them forward. They studied while working. They worked while resting. They improved systems in their spare time. They set goals that seemed impossible, and then achieved them through sheer persistence. Minji was not an exception. She was an example. Velthar sat in his quarters one night, reviewing his notes. On his homeworld, people worked, but they also rested. They valued balance. A Quellan would never study quantum mechanics while washing dishes at 3 in the morning. It would be seen as unhealthy, even obsessive, but humans seemed to thrive on it. They seemed to need it. The drive to improve, to learn, to do more, was not a burden to them. It was fuel. For the first time since arriving at Unity Station, Velthar felt a flutter of something in his chest. Not concern. Not worry. Something else. Something that felt almost like fear, mixed with admiration. He had discovered something important about humanity. He was just beginning to understand what it meant. Velthar requested a private quantum communication link to the Quellan High Council. It was expensive and used significant resources, but he felt his discovery warranted the cost. The council members appeared as holographic projections in his quarters, their blue faces serious and attentive. Ambassador, the High Speaker said. Your request indicated urgency. What have you found? Velthar organized his thoughts carefully. Honored Council, I have been observing human behavior on Unity Station. I believe I have discovered something significant about their species, something that may change our understanding of them. He presented his findings. He described Minji washing dishes at 3 in the morning while studying quantum mechanics. He told them about Junho studying medicine while maintaining life support systems. He explained Sora's dissertation work done during cargo shifts. He detailed Taehyung's engineering innovations created in spare time. The council listened in silence. When Velthar finished, the High Speaker leaned forward. You believe this represents exploitation? That we should bring charges against the human government? No, Velthar said slowly. That is what troubles me. This is not exploitation. These humans choose this. They want this. They drive themselves harder than any slave master ever could. And they seem to find joy in it. One of the council members, a female named Kelvar, spoke up. Surely this is not sustainable. They must burn out. Collapse from exhaustion. I thought the same, Velthar admitted. But I have reviewed medical records that Administrator Doyun shared with me. These humans are healthy. Their stress levels are normal. Some even show markers of increased happiness when they are most active. It defies our understanding of psychological wellness. The High Speaker was quiet for a long moment. Continue your observations, Ambassador. This bears further investigation. If humanity possesses a cultural or biological trait that drives such behavior, we must understand it fully before expanding our treaties with them. The call ended. Velthar sat in the darkness of his quarters, thinking. The council wanted more data. He would provide it, but he was beginning to suspect that data alone would not capture what made humans unique. He returned to the kitchen that night. It was once again 3 in the morning, and once again, Minji was there. This time, however, she was not washing dishes. She was helping a maintenance technician repair a water filtration unit that had malfunctioned. Hand me the molecular scanner, the technician said. The blockage appears to be in the secondary chamber, she observed, looking at a diagnostic screen. Good eye, the technician said. You are right. How did you know? The pressure readings, Minji explained. The differential suggests obstruction at that point. Also, I read the maintenance manual for this model last week. It mentioned that particular chamber as a common failure point. Velthar stepped into the room. Minji. We meet again. The girl looked up and smiled. Ambassador Velthar. Good evening. Or good morning, I suppose. Are you still having trouble sleeping? I am learning to live with it, he said. He watched as she helped the technician remove a panel from the filtration unit. Why are you here? Do you not have classes tomorrow? Classes start at 9, Minji said. I will be there. Right now. This needs fixing. People need clean water. So I help. She paused. Also, learning how these systems work will help with my engineering studies. Real-world experience is valuable. The ambassador watched them work for several minutes. Then he asked the question that had been forming in his mind. Minji, why do you push yourself like this? What drives you? Minji paused in her work. She looked at him with those young, serious eyes. Because I can, Ambassador. I have health, intelligence, time, and energy. To waste those gifts would be wrong. There is so much in the universe that needs doing. Problems to solve. People to help. Knowledge to gain. Every hour I waste sleeping, when I am not truly tired, is an hour I could have used to make things better. But what about balance? Velthar asked. What about rest and peace? I will rest when the work is done, Minji said simply, but I do not think the work will ever truly be done. There will always be another challenge, another goal. That does not depress me, Ambassador. It excites me. It means life will never be boring. The technician, who had been listening, laughed. That is very human of you, kid. One. Is it? Minji asked. Do other species not feel this way? Velthar shook his head slowly. No, Minji. They do not. Most species work because they must. They achieve because it is necessary. But humans? You work because you can. You achieve because it is possible. You push beyond necessity into the realm of potential. Is that wrong? Minji asked quietly. No, Velthar said, and he realized he meant it. He left them to their repairs and walked back through the station. His mind raced with new understanding. He began accessing historical databases, reading everything he could about human development. The data was staggering. Humans had evolved on a harsh world, but so had many species. What made humans unique was how quickly they had advanced. The Quellans had taken 40,000 years to develop spaceflight. Humans had done it in 5,000. The Vryn had needed 20,000 years to map their own genome. Humans had done it in less than a century. Why? What was the difference? Velthar found his answer in human history. Every civilization faced challenges, but humans faced their challenges with relentless persistence. When they failed, they tried again. When they succeeded, they immediately looked for the next challenge. They never stopped. They never rested on their achievements. They always pushed forward. A human scientist named Thomas Edison had failed thousands of times before inventing a practical light bulb. A human leader named Abraham Lincoln had lost election after election before becoming president. Human explorers had died attempting to reach their planet's poles, but more explorers kept coming until they succeeded. Failure did not stop humans. Success did not satisfy them. They simply kept going. Velthar realized that Minji was not unusual. She was typical. She represented what humans were at their core. Beings who could not stop improving, could not stop learning, could not stop pushing forward. Even in peace and comfort, they found new mountains to climb. It was their nature, and it was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Velthar spent the next day in his quarters, surrounded by data. He had pulled historical records from a dozen species, comparing their technological and social development with humanity's timeline. The patterns were impossible to ignore. The Quellans had discovered agriculture 12,000 years ago. They had built their first cities 8,000 years after that. They had achieved spaceflight 4,000 years later. Stable, steady progress over 40,000 years of civilization. The Vryn had followed a similar path. Slow expansion, careful development, methodical advancement. Most species in the Galactic Council had similar stories. They progressed at a natural pace, taking time to adapt, to rest, to consolidate their gains before moving forward. Humans were different. They had gone from primitive stone tools to bronze, working in just a few thousand years, from bronze to iron in centuries, from iron to steel in less time. Once they started their industrial revolution, the pace became almost frightening. Within 200 years, they went from steam engines to nuclear power. Within another century, they were walking on their moon, and they had not stopped. They had colonized their solar system in just 200 years. Mars, the asteroids, the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, everywhere humans could possibly survive, they went. And everywhere they went, they built, improved, and pushed further. Velthar pulled up the station's personnel records. He had received permission from Administrator Doyun to review them for his research. What he found supported his growing theory. Out of the 3,000 humans on Unity Station, over 60% were engaged in some form of education while working. Not because it was required, because they wanted to. The pattern was everywhere. Maintenance workers studying engineering, medical staff taking advanced courses, teachers learning new languages, administrative personnel, developing new software in their free time. It was as if the entire species had a switch stuck in the on position. He decided to observe Heijin and Minji more directly. He wanted to see their full routine. With permission, he accessed the residential monitoring systems, not to spy, but to understand. At 5 in the morning, Heijin's alarm went off. She woke immediately, no groaning or delaying. She dressed quickly and went to wake her daughter. Minji was already awake, of course. She was at her desk, working on homework. "You promised you would sleep," Heijin said, her voice tired but patient. "I did sleep, mother. 4 hours. That is enough for today." "Minji, please, you need rest. You are going to burn out." "I feel fine, mother." "Better than fine. I feel alive." Minji smiled at her mother. "Come on. I will make breakfast while you get ready. I perfected a new recipe for protein pancakes. Very efficient. High energy, good nutrition, quick to make." Velthar watched their morning routine unfold. They ate together, Minji talking rapidly about her studies while Heijin listened with tired but loving attention. Then they left together for their respective duties. Heijin went to the cleaning department. Minji went to the academy. He followed Minji's day through the academy's systems. She attended 6 hours of advanced classes: physics, mathematics, xenobiology, engineering principles, galactic history, and advanced computing. Between classes, she tutored younger students. During lunch, she worked on a research project about improving recycling efficiency on space stations. After classes, she went to one of her part-time jobs. She worked at the station library, helping people find resources and maintaining the computer systems. While working, she read technical manuals and academic papers. When the library closed, she went to help her mother finish cleaning the residential sectors. At 8 in the evening, Heijin tried to send her daughter home. Minji refused. They cleaned together. They talked about their days. Heijin looked exhausted. Minji looked energized. At 10, they finally went back to their quarters. Heijin collapsed into bed within minutes. Minji studied until midnight, then did some exercise, then went to the kitchen to prepare meals for the next few days. That was where she started washing dishes, and where Velthar had first encountered her. The girl operated on 4 to 6 hours of sleep, every day. And she had been doing this for years, according to the medical records. Her health was perfect. Her grades were exceptional. Her social relationships were normal. By every measurable standard, she was thriving. Velthar finally understood. This was not about one girl. This was about humanity. Minji was not an overachiever by human standards. She was normal, maybe even average in her drive. Velthar had read about human athletes who trained 8 hours a day while working full-time jobs. About human scientists who ran experiments for days without rest. About human explorers who pushed into dangerous territory simply because it was there. The truth settled over him like a weight. Humanity's greatest resource was not their technology. They had good technology, but so did other species. It was not their numbers. They were numerous, but not the most populous species in the galaxy. It was not even their intelligence. They were smart, but several species matched or exceeded them in raw cognitive ability. No. Humanity's greatest resource was something else entirely. It was their refusal to stop. Their inability to be satisfied. Their constant, relentless drive to do more, be more, achieve more. Other species worked until the job was done, then rested. Humans worked until the job was done, then looked for the next job. When they could not find another job, they invented one. Other species improved until they reached adequacy. Humans improved until they reached excellence, then kept improving, because excellence was not perfection. Other species explored until they mapped the known. Humans explored until they reached the unknown, then kept exploring because the unknown was infinite. Velthar felt something he had not felt in many years. He felt awe. And underneath the awe, a small thread of fear, because he realized what this meant for the galaxy. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for less than 50 years. In that time, they had already contributed dozens of technological innovations. They had established colonies on 17 worlds. They had mediated 3 trade disputes and prevented 2 wars through sheer diplomatic persistence. What would they accomplish in 100 years? 1,000? The thought was staggering. The galaxy had been relatively stable for millennia. The great civilizations had reached their plateaus. They maintained their achievements but rarely exceeded them. But humans would not plateau. They could not. It was not in their nature. They would keep pushing, keep improving, keep advancing, and they would drag the rest of the galaxy forward with them, whether the galaxy wanted to move or not. Velthar looked out at the stars beyond his window. Somewhere out there, more humans were working through the night. Building, learning, exploring, improving. They would never stop. The universe itself would have to stop them. And Velthar suspected that even the universe might struggle with that task. He sat down at his desk and began writing his report to the High Council. They needed to understand what he had discovered. The shocking truth about humanity was not that they were exploited or oppressed. It was that they were unstoppable. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with representatives from 47 different species. Velthar stood at the central podium, his 4 arms holding data tablets while holographic displays floated around him. This was the most important presentation of his career. He had requested an emergency session to deliver his findings about humanity. The High Chancellor, a Vryn elder with silver scales, called the session to order. Ambassador Velthar of the Quellan Confederacy has requested this gathering to present critical findings regarding the human species. Ambassador, you may begin. Velthar took a deep breath. Honored members of the Council, I have spent 3 weeks on Unity Station, conducting detailed observations of human behavior. What I discovered has profound implications for our relationship with humanity and for the future of the Galactic Council itself. He activated the first holographic display. It showed Minji in the kitchen, washing dishes while studying. This is a human child named Minji. She is 16 years old. At 3 a.m, while most beings sleep, she works voluntarily while studying advanced quantum mechanics. This is not unusual behavior for humans. This is typical. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A representative from the Calthon Empire stood. Surely this represents exploitation. Child labor laws exist for good reason. That was my first assumption, Velthar said. I investigated thoroughly. This child is not exploited. She is not required to work. Her mother actively tries to stop her. The station administration has restricted her access to certain areas because she volunteers too much. She does this because she wants to, because she feels compelled to use every moment productively. Ron. Laftazan product. Laftazan product. He pulled up more data. Charts comparing human advancement rates with other species. Graphs showing human work hours versus other species. Statistics on human innovation rates. Humanity achieved spaceflight in 5,000 years. We Quellans required 40,000. Humanity decoded their genome in less than a century. The Vryn needed 20,000 years. Humanity colonized their entire solar system in 200 years. Most species require thousands. The chamber fell silent as the representatives studied the data. Velthar continued. I have observed dozens of humans on Unity Station. Over 60% engage in education while working, not because they must, but because they want to. They study during lunch breaks. They develop new technologies in their free time. They tutor others after completing their own duties. They operate on minimal sleep and report feeling energized rather than exhausted. A representative from the Quellan delegation spoke up. Certainly this behavior cannot be sustainable. They must suffer psychological consequences. Velthar shook his head. Medical records indicate that these humans are healthy. Their stress markers are normal. Many show increased happiness when they are most active and productive. What we consider obsessive, they consider normal. What we consider burnout, they consider rest. He pulled up historical records. Let me share something remarkable. In their 20th century, humans had a space program. A human named Katherine Johnson performed calculations for spacecraft trajectories. She did this while facing discrimination, while raising 3 children, while managing a household. She worked 12-hour days doing mathematics by hand that determined whether astronauts lived or died. When I asked a human historian about her, they said she was impressive, but not unique. There were thousands like her. The chamber buzzed with conversation. Velthar raised his voice. Do you understand what this means? Thousands of beings with that level of dedication, working simultaneously, pushing forward together. That is humanity. They do not have a few exceptional individuals. They have millions of them. Billions, perhaps. He activated another display. This one showed projections. If humanity maintains their current growth rate, within a century, they will have the largest space fleet in the galaxy. Within 2 centuries, they will have colonies on more worlds than any other species. Within 5 centuries, they may achieve technological advancement that the rest of us will struggle to comprehend. Not because they are smarter than us, but because they work harder, longer, and with more dedication than we can match. The High Chancellor leaned forward. Are you suggesting humanity poses a threat? No, Velthar said firmly. I am suggesting humanity poses a challenge. They will advance whether we help them or not. They will explore whether we permit it or not. They will innovate whether we encourage it or not. The question before this council is simple. Do we embrace this force and work with it? Or do we resist it and fall behind? A representative from the Delnari collective stood. What do you propose? Velthar straightened. I propose full council membership for humanity immediately. Not limited membership. Full voting rights. Full access to council resources. Full participation in all initiatives. He paused. And I propose something more. I propose the Human Integration Initiative. The High Chancellor raised a hand for silence. Explain this initiative. ID. The High Chancellor. We cannot control humanity's drive, Velthar said. We cannot slow them down or limit them. What we can do is channel that drive productively. I propose we create joint programs between human institutions and council species, research partnerships, educational exchanges, engineering collaborations. Let their energy improve all of us. Let their persistence solve problems that have stalled for centuries. He pulled up one final display. It showed the galaxy, with projected expansion routes. Honored Council, we have been stable for thousands of years. Stable means we have stopped growing. Humanity has been growing for 5,000 years and shows no signs of stopping. They will inherit the stars, not through conquest, but through persistence. We can either join them in that inheritance or watch them claim it alone. The chamber erupted in discussion. Delegates argued and debated. Velthar stood at the podium, waiting. After an hour, the High Chancellor called for silence. This council will vote on Ambassador Velthar's proposals. But first, does the ambassador have anything else to add? Velthar nodded. Yes, Your Honor. One more thing. He pulled up an image of Minji, smiling as she helped repair the water filtration unit. This child will be an engineer. She will design life support systems for deep space vessels. She told me her goal is to make space travel affordable for everyone. Not just for her species, but for all species. That is not unusual ambition for a human. That is typical. He looked around the chamber. Humans have a saying, sleep is for the weak. They do not mean this literally. They love sleep, but they love purpose more. They love challenge. They love improvement. This is why they will succeed. Not because they are perfect, but because they never stop trying to be better." End quote. The vote was called. It took 3 hours. In the end, the council approved full membership for humanity. By a vote of 39-8, the Human Integration Initiative passed with 32 votes in favor. Velthar returned to Unity Station 2 days later. He went directly to the kitchen at 3 in the morning. As expected, Minji was there. This time she was teaching another young human, a boy named Jinwoo, how to solve calculus problems while they cleaned together. Minji saw Velthar and smiled. "Ambassador. Welcome back. Would you like some tea?" Velthar found himself smiling. Something Quellens rarely did. "Yes, Minji. I would like that very much." He sat at one of the tables and watched the two young humans work. They laughed as they cleaned. They discussed mathematics with enthusiasm. They moved with purpose and energy, despite the late hour. Velthar added a final note to his personal log. "The humans have a saying. Sleep is for the weak. I understand now what they truly mean. They do not despise rest. They simply value purpose more. They find meaning in challenge and joy in persistence. This is their strength. This is their gift to the galaxy." He looked at Minji, who was explaining differential equations while scrubbing a pot. "We other species have reached our comfortable plateaus. We maintain what we have built. We rest on our achievements. But humans will never rest. They will always reach higher, push further, work harder, not because they must, but because they cannot help themselves. They will inherit the stars through sheer, exhausting, magnificent persistence. And if we are wise, we will follow them there. Because where humans go, possibilities multiply. Where humans work, innovation blooms. Where humans dream, the impossible becomes merely difficult." Velthar sipped his tea and watched the future of the galaxy scrub dishes and solve equations at 3 in the morning. And he felt something he had not felt in years. He felt hope. The future would be exhausting, but it would never, ever be boring. Minji finished teaching Jinwoo and brought fresh tea to Velthar's table. "You look happy, Ambassador." "I am," Velthar said. "I am watching the future. And it is working very hard." Minji laughed. "The future is always working, Ambassador. That is what makes it worth reaching." She glanced at her datapad. "I should finish this chapter on quantum entanglement before morning classes. But I am glad you visited. Come back anytime. The kitchen is always open, and there is always work to do." Velthar watched her return to her studies and her tasks, moving between them with easy confidence. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. But Velthar knew. Humanity was coming, and they would arrive exactly the way they did everything else, relentlessly.